Welcome back. In today's video, we are going to continue with our project. So in our previous episode, we worked onto this and we started designing our form. So worked on the image upload. We have these other form fields, all these ones. Okay, we have all this data here. That is great. So in today's video, we have to complete this form and we should be able to be getting the data out of this form. Okay, so that is the today's what we want to work on. Today's video is going to be having a lot of new concepts, probably the ones you have not seen. So I want you to grab your cup of coffee and we take a ride onto this. We'll have fun and we'll have enjoy a lot of learning. So another thing, I went ahead and created a repository. Okay, I will be putting this link to this repository just in case you want to get access to this code, so that you can actually maybe you have yours is not working that side or there is any problem, you can use this repository. Now in most of my videos I rarely provide GitHub repositories because I intentionally want students to actually participate in coding. Okay, do not misuse when you are given a chance to get the repository. You should only use the repository if you are so stuck, you are stuck and you can't move maybe forward. That's when you can use your repository and check whatever is not working. But most of the people, when they're given a chance to get a repository, they just run, get the code, and then they think they can follow the video by just looking at the code. Please write every single line of code. That's when it can sink in your mind. Okay, just simply code with me. Avoid just going forking and just downloading repos. It's not a good it's not necessarily a bad thing, but the bad thing is that when you copy the code minus you writing the code, it doesn't make sense. Okay, so just simply code as you're going along. If you get stuck, you can simply come actually to that specific component or whatever, look at the code, then go back and correct yours. Okay, that's normally me how I used to learn from maybe YouTube tutorials or something. But instead of you going and copying, you have the whole code of the functioning app, but then you don't know actually the concepts behind that app, So that is one question I want to tell you. And I will be pushing all the code after every lesson. Now going back to the app, by the way, I want to thank those ones who have subscribed so far. If you haven't subscribed, head to the channel, or there is, as you are watching, maybe there is a card popping up to subscribe. You can just visit the channel, please subscribe, and there is a lot of more content that is there. Just move around the videos and you see if you can find other videos that can help you. Okay, so that would be really great. So you just move around, see the content, and see the content I'll be producing more Next.js content. I'll be producing more Laravel content and also React Native. So in future, we are after finishing more projects on doing more SaaS projects on Next.js, I plan actually to produce more content on React Native and Laravel. Okay, so that is a great thing that is you can always check and see. Let's go back to our project. Okay, so the first thing we are going to do, first of all, before we add in, let's just go to our design. So we are always referring to this so this is where we have reached, where we have these content done here. Okay, so before we add in this component, I would want to show you how we would grab this data here. Okay, we would want to see how we could grab the data so far that we have created. Okay, we can have here this this data here, the one that we have created, so that we can see how, if someone wants to get this data, how would they get that data from this form. Why I'm doing this is because when we add this component, the table component, this will be too much data and you might actually get confused how we are handling the getting of all this data. So I would want to first get this data so that you really actually get familiar with the concept. Okay, so let's just work on that. So already I have here our code here. So this is the page component, invoice new. And by the way, if you are coming into this episode, please watch the previous episodes. I'll be leaving the link in the link to the previous episodes always in the description. Go and check this playlist. Okay, check the playlist for the invoice generator so that you can start from the beginning. And we're of course also tracking our Trello. We are still working on the design of the invoice, the preview and the form, and I hope today we could finish it and we drag this to completed. Okay, so moving on, let's just go back to our form. So what we want to do is getting all this form data. Okay, so what we can do first is, so going to our form, I'm just going to go to our form. Where is the form? Where is the form? So the form is here. Okay, this is our form, and inside the form is where we have all these fields. We have a lot of fields. We have the image, and then we have these company details and the client details. The first thing we have to do is to make sure that each input has a name. So I want you to get this right. Okay, so let's just go to this inputs. So we have a label. Okay, this one was for the image. Let me first leave the image. By the way, we are going to handle the image later on. We might not just look at the image. I don't want to confuse very many concepts always in one video. So the image upload and working with the image, will just see it in one of its own videos. Right now, let's just work on other data. So right now, if you look at our inputs, we have a simple input that is having on a type and a placeholder. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to first create our state. So on top here, we are going to create a state const, and then we'll create something like form data. Okay, and then we have set form data, which is equal to use state. And now at the beginning, remember at the beginning we want to have all this data inside here. Okay, so at the beginning it has to be an array of the whole data. We want this to be an array containing all our data. For instance, if we start from the input, let me just go to these inputs. Okay, so we have these inputs. So for instance, the first input is having the company name. Okay, so it's having the company name, which is really nice. So we have company name, we have the name, we have the company address, we have the city, and by the way, we have to differentiate. There is a city that belongs to the company and that. So we have some details. Okay, so you could first write them on a paper. Let's just do one by one, and this is the part where you need to be really careful. We are storing this form data. We are not going to store each individual one, so we could just go ahead and create a state for each individual one. Now that one would be so much bulk. If we wanted to store it and create we create a state for each single form field, it would be a really bulky one, but instead we are just going to create one and we add all these ones in an object just like this. So this state here, we are storing them not as an array, sorry for that, we are storing them as an object. Okay, it cannot be an array. It cannot be an array, it has to be an object, because in the object it is very hard to keep in an array, because what we want is to keep each input, to keep its name and the value. Okay, so we cannot keep a key and a value in an array. Instead, we keep a key and a value in an object. So we can create a use state. So this form data is going to be initially an object, and then this object we can give them keys, for instance company name. Okay, and then we can give it a value, and by default of course it's going to be empty, and then we keep putting all these ones. Okay, so we have company name. Okay, and then I'm just going to copy this name, by the way. So copy this name, move down to the form here. So where we have the inputs, company details, the first one is company name. Now we are going to add another field, which is name. So it has to have this name because we want to use it in the future. We have to set this name, and the name you set is exactly the one that we have used it as a key. So this name that we have used as a key here is actually exactly what we set as a name of the field. So when you come here, make sure that now you have a name. Okay, so this is really very important. Now we are going to first do this to all of them so that actually we have them. So that is the first thing, putting this. So I'm just going to go to the second one. This is the name. Maybe we could just say this is the name of the representative, whoever is writing maybe the invoice. You see here in our form we have your company and then your name. So you just say maybe company representative, okay, or contact person. So you just use this one as company representative. We could just use company representative or contact person. You just use this one as contact person. Just come here, name. Just have only the object already name. So this one is going to be contact, maybe contact person, the name here. Okay, or we could just say the author, maybe invoice author, to that would be knowing very well. So just say call this person invoice author. So this person is the one who has created the invoice. Okay, so here let's just go and put another one. So we have the invoice author, set it to empty. Okay, so you just continue, move all these ones, and by the way, all these other parts I'm going to minimize them. Minimize this, minimize this. Okay, so that we have some few code to look at, and also I'm just going to drop this so that we have more space. So we have here invoice author. Wait, company details. This one's supposed to be this is here, and then here we have company name. Okay, so they just go to the third one. So this one is company address. So just come here down and add name is equal to company address. So to avoid mistakes, copy this name, just copy it clearly like that, go and put it inside this here, comma, put this, and then we set the initial value to be empty. Okay, so just continue, and so you are on the company address. Next is company city. So down here I'm just going to put name, and the name is company city, so just say company city. Okay, company city, just copy this name, go and update this into here. Company city by default is empty. Okay, by default is empty, and so just come here, up here, and then finally is the company country. So you can just see here, company name is company company country. Copy this. Okay, and put that one there. So far we have these are details, 5 details for the company. So we have to add now more for the client. So after finishing this, go to this bill 2. So here we have input your client's company. So here we have name, which is client company. Copy this, take it up there. Okay, put comma, put client company, and this is going to be an empty value by default. Guys, do not get tired of just moving one step. Is very important to have it right. So don't just say we are doing a monotonous work, just do it manually. Okay, simply do it manually. You just actually start understanding this. As you are typing these things, they start getting into your head. Okay, so this is client's address. So just say here client address, and then also to get to the flow, how they move. So company address. Okay, just come here, comma. Okay, is equal, is going to be this by default. Okay, move, continue, let's move on. Client company, client address, and then we have the city, and this one, the name is client city, the client city. So copy this, and by the way, if you are finding yourself having spelling mistakes, there is one plugin, one extension for VS Code. You can just go here on the side on extensions. I don't know what happened on my view appearance. I don't know why I'm not having the sidebar. Not this one. Just go to view appearance. I don't know if this is the activity. There is activity bar. Yep. So you can just come and to here to extensions and add a C spell. There is, I think there is a C spell, something like that. There is one for spelling. I think you could just put spelling something. If you have spelling mistakes, I know it is very hard. Most people, when they are writing, most of the bugs come from spellings. Okay, so you can just go and add one for spelling. I have this code spell checker. Just install this, and this will always be keeping your spellings in check. Okay, so I know that is also a problem to most of us, and I have it also there. That's why I know myself. So you can also put one so that you don't go into those simple bugs. caused by spelling mistakes. So we have the last one we had written was client city. Now the final one is actually the client, let's see, name. Okay, name is client country, client country. Okay, client country. So just go up here and also update this inside here, client country, and by default is empty. Okay, so this is great, and I think that is the was the last one. Let me check what is into this div. Okay, so we have this invoice, so we have invoice number. So just do the same thing to these ones. I think we are on to these three. So we finished these 4. Now we are on to these 3: invoice, invoice now, invoice date, and due date. Okay, so just say go and write those ones. So the first one is this one is invoice number. So just say name is equal to invoice number. Okay, invoice number, copy this, you can just take it here, invoice number. So we have, that is the only way we could get this easily. Of course, you could also go ahead and use React Hook form, and if in my video, you can just go and watch a video in React Hook form and you could add it, but in this video I didn't want to really add more complexity. What we want is to really understand how to do this, and this also helps you to know how you can manually actually handle your forms, not only in this invoice application but even in other applications you're working on, you know. So just go ahead, and then you have the invoice date. So on the input, just put the name. This is very important, guys. Putting the name is important in what you're going to do next. So here, the name for this one is invoice date. So this is invoice date. Okay, so you have the invoice date, and I'm just going to put another one down here, which is invoice due date. So we have invoice name. So you have invoice due date, and then you have also invoice date. So we have due date and just invoice date here. So just go and write to these two. So we have invoice date. So just write invoice date, just like that. Put a comma here. This is invoice date, and then the next one is invoice due date. So this actually takes in all the fields, and you could just even do console.log form data. Okay, so that we just look at this object in the browser, and just go to the browser here and go to the console. Okay, you can just go to the console here, and let me refresh. Okay, I'm just refreshing, and okay, so we have the object on top here, I guess. Yep, so we have our object there. And by the way, always read these warnings. So that is why we have the invalid DOM property 4. Did you mean HTML4? So we could just go and look for this, the 4. So let me just go and get that 4. Just Control F and just say 4 equals, and you can see here under the drop zone, this is supposed to be changed to HTML4. Okay, and this is how I get my mistakes. Just always read the console. There are some people who don't read the console. Read the console, see where the problem is, try to see if you can fix it. Even when it has not caused the problem, it might have no problem by seeing it here, but when you deploy, the project might fail. Okay, so we have here our console and is having our object, as you can see here. All the details is having them here. Okay, and by the way, I also created a simple, not a blog, but a reference blog. Let me copy these values. I will show you in a second. Okay, so like this, const form data. Oh, sorry. I'm just going to be copying some of these snippets we are working on, and I save them in a place you can actually have a reference at the end of this tutorial. So I've already prepared one. I will share this blog in the link. So if you just come here, this is my Notion. I always use this so much. You can see most of the tutorials, if you have been following, you will see that most of my tutorials actually have blogs. Okay, so I will just be writing this as a reference so that you could actually use this. So I'll be updating as we are moving. I'll be updating this, for instance, the form that we have worked on. Okay, so I have here form data handling, and I will also put the link to the GitHub here down in a second. So you could just put here the form data, what you are doing in the part of form data handling. I'm going to be updating, or I did the reference here. We'll be referencing some of the things so that you keep updated and you don't get stuck. Okay, while me I was learning, I could wish someone maybe gets the those concepts that we have covered in the tutorial, then we just have like those major snippets that we worked on. Okay, so for instance, these things here, just having them here. So I'm just going to update like this function, and we put the one that we have used here. So you see I've updated this, and this is the first thing we have done in our component. And we have done this company stuff, and this component is called what? So this component is called page. Okay, we could call this the create invoice. Okay, the create invoice. So this is create invoice. So just copy this, and I just update this name to create invoice. Okay, so this is the component for create invoice, and this is what we have reached. Okay, yeah, so just going to be going slowly as we are moving on. Okay, so the next thing we have to do is, right now we have done this. We have all the data for representing all these inputs, and we set them by default to be this. So how do we link this form data to our form, so that if someone types in something here, this data here can be picked and be filled into this stuff? Okay, so the first thing is we first add the what we call on change on each of these inputs, so that if someone types, we can know. Okay, so we can add an event listener on each of these items, so that if someone types in something, we can actually know that he has typed in something. And we can do that using the on change. Okay, we can use that using the on change. So if you just scroll down, I'll be using this, by the way, for showing you things. Let me just move it up. So if you just go to the form, the only thing we need to do is, in each of the fields, for instance, this input, we have put the first thing, the name. So you can see we went ahead and added the name on each individual input in our form. So the second thing is to add is these two things. The first one is the on change. So this on change function is a function that will run, that is going to run when something changes in the input, and is called on change. And then we also reference the value of this input in our form data. So for instance, the value of this is form data.company. Okay, so we are going to add these two things on all our inputs. Okay, so just going to add this to our inputs. So the first thing here is we have to create this function called handle input change. So this function is going to run wherever we type something. Okay, so let me just first of all go down here. After this, I'm just going to create a function handle input change, just like that. Okay, so I've created this function handle input change, and really, and this input, it can take in some things, but right now let's leave it like this, handle input change. So for each of these inputs we have here, we have to add this function. So let me just go to, by the way, we're first leaving the image alone. We'll handle the image in the future, maybe in the next video. So here in this input, for wherever we have this input, I'm just going to come down here and I add these two things, the only change and the value. So the only change, as we said, is the one which is going to be telling us something changed in this field. And now the value is going to be form data. This is the reference of this value in our form data, because remember, all these details of the inputs, they are coming from the form data. So to do this, we have to say it is form data.company name. So this gives us a reference to this one. So just go ahead, let's copy these two, and we're just going to put them in all our inputs. So this one is the invoice author. So here is going to be invoice author, and then here we just say company, and you can just see here we just get this nice stuff from our stuff. We can just look for, it was invoice author, not company, actually invoice author, just like that. Then this one is company address. So this one is company address, actually on top here. Next is company. So this one is company city, okay. The next one is the company country. So you can just see company country, just like that. Take your time and add this to be perfect. So this is client company, just add these two on change, and the company. So this is the client, so client company. Make sure that this name and the value here, they are matching. Okay, and then let's move on. Here is client address, so just put here client address. So you have client address here. Continue. Then we have the name down here. We are going to have client city, so just the client city, just like that. And then we are about to finish. So this one is the client country, so just say client country. And next is the invoice. So I mean these three. So we have here, this is invoice. So we have invoice number, the first one, and then the second one is invoice date. So on the input, by the way, make sure you are putting them on the input, not on the label. So some people will have them on the label and the thing is not working. So it is on the inputs. So just add this invoice date. So put here invoice date, just like that. Move on to the last one, which is actually the invoice due date. So this one is going to be invoice due date. Okay, invoice due date, like that. So I think that is was the last one. Save. Okay, so we have put now all these, they are interlinked. So what next? What next is, how do we get, because it is this handle input that is going to actually give us, so this handle input is the one that is going to give us access to the actual value someone has typed in here. So when someone is typing in here, this handle input change, this function is going to want to give us this stuff, and it is going to use the name and then also the event. Okay, so coming up next in this handle input, okay, if we go to handle input, so if you just go down, not this one, so we have this handle input. So this handle input could take into one thing, which is the event. Okay, so if I just come here and say console.log, maybe event, I don't know if this would be triggered. Let me just do here. It is fast refreshing. So let me just try to type in something. So there is here something called an account. Go here. A component is a changing an uncontrolled input to be controlled. This is like caused by the value changing from an undefined to a defined value, which should not happen. Decide between using a controlled and uncontrolled input element for the lifetime of the component. Okay, so this is supposed, of course, to be triggered under the on submit, but I want to show you in this. By the way, this, let me first copy this link to this code. So that I close this. So I'm copying this GitHub, Control C, close this. I'm just going to put it also on these ones. So on the links, by the way, the links we are all using, comparing and what, I put them here. So down here, I'm just going to add one more link, which is the GitHub. Okay, that is cool. Okay, so now what did I want to say? Yeah, I was just going to show you this handle, the handle change or the handle input. So the handle input, it takes in the event. Okay, it takes in the event, and then it is from this event that we can actually extract two things. Okay, we can extract the name of that input and its value, and then after that you are going to see, we are going to use that actually to update these inputs here. Okay, and then after that, then we can get the whole data from the form. Let's just go back here, refresh. Let's refresh. Okay, so from this, oh, did I say console.log object? Console.log e. Okay, let me just go and see this time. Let me just type in JB here. Okay, so after typing in something happened. Okay, let's just see type. Okay, so now after typing in something, you see some event was the event was consoled here. Let's look at this event. Okay, so if you look at the event, it has a lot of stuff: bubble, cancelled, blah blah, all those things, but it has the target. Okay, the first thing it has this target. So if you look at the target, inside the target, you see that we have actually the value. Okay, we have the inside the target, we have a lot of things. Okay, and if you keep scrolling, you can see, you come actually to see that it has a lot of stuff. Okay, it has a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff. You can see all these are actually on this, and the first one we want is actually the name. So if you continue going down, you see we have the name. Okay, and then somewhere we also have the value. Okay, so they're the things we want from this whole event. Okay, so from the event we want to access, from the event we want to destructure two things. Want to destructure the name, okay, and the value from the target. So you're going to say is equal to e dot target. Okay, so we have this e, and then we can access the target. So we have the name and the value from e dot target. Okay, don't know where this is coming from, this RMC. Declaration, this may be probably the saving. I want to go ahead and console.log. Okay, I want to go ahead and console.log the name. I want to console.log the name and the value. So they are the two things we want from, two things from this, the name and the value of the input. So we want these two things here, the name and the value. Declaration or statement expected. Maybe here const, actually const. So we want to extract the name and the value from the e dot target, and we saw the e dot target here. We have some problem. Let's see if it was the one of is rendering. Just a second. Okay, so now what I want is I want to type in something here, and then we see what we get this side. So in the client address, I'm going to type in Nairobi. Okay, so now let's refresh. So when you come and let's type in something like Nairobi. Okay, so you see I typed in stuff here, and some things were consoled here, and you can see when I typed in A, this was consoled, the client address and A, and then here I typed in I, here I typed in. So every time you are doing like the typing, actually the only change is actually listening. Okay, the only change function is always listening to the event. Okay, so we're busy consoling down the client and the name, which is the client address I was typing on, and whatever I was typing in as the value. Okay, so that is great. So it means we are actually having this function is helping us extract two things, the name and the value. So what we want is want to update after getting the name and the value. So after getting the item or the input name and the value, would want to actually update this would want to update the data. Okay, so would want to get, for instance, this form data. So we know that the form data, okay, so we could just say set. Okay, first of all, we could first create a new object. Let me show you what I mean here. So you see, we say set form data, and we could set some form data to the previous data, and then with this new value that we have changed. Okay, let's just do that. So we can't do this. We can just say set form data, and this is the updating this input that you are working on. Want to update this name and the value that you have typed in the form data. So form data, set form data to, we could set this to an object. First of all, we first maintain what is there, and this is form data. So maintain what is there. This is what it means, spread. So spreading this is adding these ones, the previous ones that have been there, and then we put comma in this object. Okay, we put comma, and then we put name, and then we give it a new value, which is actually the value. Okay, so with this, now what we want to do is actually to console.log. We're supposed to console.log now. I don't know, this console.log form data. Okay, and by the way, if you want to get this one easily from this function, this is not the best way of getting form data. We are going to see that in a second. So if I just go back, type in my this client city, if I type in this is hub, first of all, you see here I have client company, this is hub, and now if we check in the object, okay, if we check in the object, it hasn't actually been updated. I think this was client company hasn't been yet set. Let me see. So to actually see this data very well, what we have to do is we have to create another function that is going to help us actually submit the data. Okay, so this one, I'm just going to create another function called function handle form submit. So this one is going to be called handle form submit. So this function is going to run when the form is submitted. Okay, so this one is going to run when the form is submitted. Okay, so let me just go here, and it also takes in the event on the form, and then the first thing it does, it is e.prevent default, e.prevent default, just like that. Handle form submit. So this function, now this one, the first function, the handle input change, this one runs when we change something in the form input, but this one happens when actually we click the submit. So when I come here, I'm just going to first remove this here. What I want is here, I can now console.log form data. Okay. So how does this, who runs this function? So I have to create something to run this function. So just come to the form itself on top here, on the form, and put on submit, and then run handle form submit. Okay, just like that. And if you do that, then means in your form, at last there must be a button. Okay, you must have a button at the end of the form here. You should have a button. So I'm just going to go at the end here of this. I'm just going to put a button. Okay, and this one can be of type submit. Okay, can be type submit, just like that. And you could just give it a class name for styling purposes. let me just call it bg purple, maybe 600. Okay, let's give it padding y to be 3, padding x to be maybe 6. It should have text white. Okay, just like that. I think that it should be enough. Let's look at what we have right now. It should have the text itself here saying submit. Okay, so we have here the button submit. Let's see it. Okay, so you have the button submit. Maybe the padding y can keep it 2.5. Okay, can keep it 2.5. Does 2.5 exist? Yep, 2.5 exists. And now text white, and you could just say rounded. Okay, let's just now go ahead and see. Okay, this one looks okay. So now if I just type in something here, Nairobi, and you can see the client address Nairobi, just click submit. Okay, so if you just come here now in the client address, guys, look at this. In the client address, Nairobi is there. So this data, how it moves is that when you type in something like here, this data is sent. Okay, this data is picked by the handle input. So when you type in something, the handle input stuff is the one which picks the data. I want you to understand this clearly so that you don't have to cram. So when we type in something, this handle input change picks this. Okay, it has access, of course, to the value. It knows which value to update. So here we actually get its value in the form data. Okay, and then we also have its name. So it gets these two things, the name and the value, takes them into this handle input. So when we go to this handle input, it has access, as you said, the name and the value. It gets them, and then it sets the form data. It first maintains the previous data, because if we simply add this, it will replace the existing one. So we have to first get all the existing ones, add them there, and then we say get the name. By the way, if these brackets are useful, if you don't put these brackets here, they will replace, it will create a new item called name and give it this value. So make sure you have this bracket on. Okay, so we have this. So we have now two functions. We have this set data form, set form data function that is getting all the data, and it updates exactly this name with its value in that. So after doing this, it has done its purpose. But then we have the one that is actually having access to the whole data. Okay, it has access to the whole what? The whole data, and this is exactly what it is doing. Okay, so this is great. So now if I go ahead and type in everything, so we have let's start with the client. Maybe start with to make sure that everything is okay. Let's start with your company. My company is called the SaaS Hub. Okay, the name, I'm called JB. Company address is in Chirika. City is Kampala. Country is Uganda. Bill 2, so bill 2 here, we can just say we are billing to a company called maybe why not, I'm just writing to a company to Facebook. Okay, then location maybe is in London. Okay, city maybe, let's just say still London, maybe New York. Then country, let's say England or USA, it doesn't matter. I'm just, by the way, just putting these fields at random, so don't be offended if I do something wrong. So just put any of this. This can be the B2, whatever, maybe Bangladesh or India or whatever. So just put any values here. What we want to see is that something is happening. So 0, 2. And by the way, in the future, we can generate this invoice number automatically for the client if they want to. Then the date, let's just say start with the month. So the month is just say it is right now July 07. Date is 10th, and then it is 2023. Due date, let's just say maybe August 10, 2023. Let's say submit. So what we want is to see all the data populated. So I've clicked submit. Okay, they just move down. Of course, we have all the other things we entered. I'm just going to stop that function, of course. But then we look at the object. The object is actually having all the values. So you see client address London, client city New York, client company Facebook, client country England. All the data from this, we are actually getting it. So you can see even the date, we have invoice number, we have the date here, we have the invoice date, we have the author, we have all the data from our form. Okay, so this is good if you have reached this part whereby we have made this form to be able to get all these details. So in the next segment, we are going to actually work on, so of course after you have gotten this data, I could also go ahead and empty these values after we have updated this. Okay, after we have updated that, you could just go ahead and reset. Okay, you could go and empty the data, but just leave it for now. Just leave it like that. Some client maybe wants to again change something. Okay, we can just put on the form itself a reset function so that the client can be able to do that. Okay, so now before we go to the form, one problem we have is 1. Okay, so right now by the way, if we could have this function in the preview, I don't know how we could just show that in the preview. You could just go in the preview and get this data. That data is there right now. The only problem we have is that in the design of the form here, we do not have the what. So maybe at the end we could just put the save button. Okay, we could put the save button, but we are going to see in the future, we are going to actually just, I think we should just work on it, how we can use our preview to submit the form. So we have the preview, the one we have somewhere in ours here. We have this on top here, this preview button. And these buttons are not inside. These buttons here are not inside. Okay, is not inside the form. So if you click it, as you can see, it has nothing to do with the submitting of the form. Okay, it has nothing to do with submitting of the form. By the way, let's just first see here is any problem. There is something here, class. Let's also get this. Those errors, I always read them. Control F, search for class equals. We don't have any class, just empty one, but I'm seeing the error here. Maybe it is somewhere. It is in the form preview at form. Oh, it is in the form preview component. Maybe let's just go to the form preview. Let's go to the form preview component. Always read the things from your stuff. It always talks to you, but you do not listen. So you can see here we have it. Okay, so this is good. I've removed that. So what I was going to say is what we want in our data is that we have this this edit form, okay, and this preview. It is just toggling the two. The problem is that for the data to be present, this one has to be clicked, okay. This submit function must be able to be clicked so that we pick the data from the form and we put it into state, okay, so that when we go to the preview, so for instance, let me just go to the preview, okay. So we could just go and show you in a second. Go to the page. So this, after we have this data in the preview here, we could just now go to the preview component. Where is the preview? So it must be here. The preview component. I could just simply search this preview. I'm in the form preview right now. No, you can just say simply search here form preview. So it's here. So what we want to this component, want to send the data. So we can just say here form data is equal to form data. Okay, form data is equal to form data. Now, if you get confused by this, you could actually name this one as data. It doesn't matter. You could just name this one as the keys data. You send it to the form preview. Like, we want to get our data from the form, and after getting the form, we send it to the form preview. So when we go to the form preview, okay, we could access the data here, okay, and then from this data we can get all the properties. So I'm just going to go back and get all the properties, and to get them I'm just going to use this object. So copy this object. So I'm just going to say const in this one. Const, I add this object is equal to data. Now in this object, just simply remove these here, okay, and I can easily remove them from up here. So just put this and even a comma, Control D very fast, like that. So remove all these ones. Maybe the comma are necessary, just add a comma. So we can destructure everything, okay. All these details are present now on the data, okay. So I can just come here and destructure them like this, or if you wanted, you could also leave them. Now we could just come here on the preview page. We just say h2 company name, and then I say here is equal to company name. So let's just say company name. This is how we can send the data. So you can just do something like this, okay. So we do something like this. So company address is equal to company address, okay. And then company, maybe client, just get the client. So the client company name here, it will be client company. So I'm having this data, receiving it on a different component, which is the form preview component. So what we did is, in the page, get all the data from the form, set it in the state as form data, and then after setting it, then we can actually send it. We can just send it here to the form data via this data key, and then on this object here in the form preview, we can access all this data from this one. Now, you don't necessarily need to destructure it like this. I use destructuring because you can clearly see these things here, or you could just actually leave it minus defining this, and then you use data dot. You say, for instance, company name would be data dot company name. This one, whatever is easy for you. So let's just go now back here. So we have our data here. Now let's just go and click the preview, and you can see here in the preview is that we have company name, this is Hub, company address Chirika, and company client's name is Facebook. So you can see on the preview component, actually we have access to this data that was in the form. Okay, this data that was in the form. So you could put down here submit invoice. Okay, submit invoice or create invoice. In fact, you could just put the name here. Okay, you could now click, where is it, here, not in this. You could just add this you could just add here create invoice, like create invoice. Okay, so maybe after this you could just say, after clicking create invoice, we could set this preview. So let's just see what we are doing in the preview. So if you check in our preview function here, what the preview button is doing, let's go to the buttons, they are here. And if you check what in the preview is doing, is setting the preview to this. So you could just go at the end, let's just get this, Control C. Let's go at the end of this function here, and let's just do this. Just remove this set. So you could just use set preview to inverse of preview, as we had explained this, to the opposite of whatever is available. So just see if after we have submitted the new data, it does that. So I'm just going to change some things. Let's say put here updated. Okay, and then down here, let me change the client name to Google. Let's say create invoice. So you see, after clicking there, it actually rendered this. So you see, we can now actually have the updated, and of course you can see even here edit, it is in edit form. Okay, so we can have a way now of going onto this page. Okay, we have the company and all this information picked from here, and it is also populated here. Okay, so that is great. We are moving on so well. By the way, I'm just going to be updating all these things inside. Okay, so these two functions so far, this one and this one, let me copy them. Copy these two functions and let's put them in our cheat sheet. So this one is going to be like your cheat sheet. If you want to make any reference or to use it in the future, if you're working on other projects, you can use it. So I will just remove this, and then even this, and then let's paste this. So now you will have access to these things as we are updating them live. Okay, that is great. So now we have that part working very well. Let me just go back to the form. Now let's start actually a serious task. Okay, so the serious task we want to work on now is adding this table. Okay, is adding this this table here. We want to add this table, and then we will be able to add also the inputs. So the first thing is actually to create the component of the table. Okay, so that we can add it in our stuff. So come here. Okay, just go inside the form. Okay, inside the form we have this image, we have company details. I talked about the image, that we talk about it in the next video, because it has some things that we need to handle very carefully. So we have this button. So after this, client details, we want to put a form here. So we want a form table. So we have a table here. So this table is going to handle the properties that we are getting from this, like brochure design, the quantity someone has put, these inputs, all of them, just like this. Okay, so of course it has how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, it has the quantity, rate, this and that. So the first thing you're going to do is creating the table component. So we do not want to already this is having more fields. We cannot add the whole table inside here. Instead, we are going to create a component for the table. So just come here and let's create a table component. So just say table. Okay, just say table, and in fact, so you could just say form table. Form table dot jsx. I'm just going to say RFC to create the component, and by the RFC stands for React Functional Component. So here I'm just going to put h2 saying the form table, just like that. So they just go ahead and submit the connect this to our form. So just go back to page under here. Let me put that. I'm just going to put form table. Okay, just like that. Let's see it. Go back here, and you should have something like form table somewhere. Okay, so the form table is here. Okay, so now let's go to flow byte. So to grab just the form, shouldn't struggle making the form, just go to flow byte, say flow byte. Okay, so just going to get a simple table, just search here for the table. Okay, so they have the tables here. We're just going to get the table and then we modify it to the way we want. Of course, they don't have the ones that has inputs, okay, but we can just find one that is really the one that we might just use, and we just need a simple one, not just the one that is complicated. After all, it is going to have the form inputs. Okay, it's going to have the form inputs. So at least we have already seen the handling of the data. Now we're just going to add this component and also get its data. So you can see here we have this table, and this one should be just fine. This one, we don't want the one which is complicated at this point. You can see they have highlighted, blah blah, all these ones. They just get is simply the one, actually just get this one which has the edit. So this one is going to be the remove row. This one, just get this one. So you can just come copy this. Okay, so go to the form table component, and in the return, let's return this here. So the first thing when we put in this stuff is changing the class. Remember, we want to use class names, so just say Ctrl F and Ctrl H. Remember, so replace class with class name. Just do so. The finding this is Ctrl F, replacing is Ctrl H, then fill on this, replace all. So now we have our table. Now let's first look at this, how it looks on the UI, how terrible it can get, and let me put this like this, and wow, you know, it is fitting in really well. Look at that. So just going to add some little margin top, and then also margin bottom. Okay, so just go to this table, let's add margin Y. So just say margin Y to be maybe 6, just to add some space on top and bottom. Yep, so that one looks nice. I like this, guys. This is coming up really nicely. So the only thing is updating these fields here now. So the first one we have is the item description. So in the first table head, so the table is divided into parts. Let me just do this. It has this table head, and then it has also the table body. Okay, it has this T head and T body is like table head and table body. Table head is actually containing the columns of the table, and if you just check inside, we have product name. Just change this one to item description. Item description, that is great. Okay, the second one we have is quantity. So this one should be quantity, QTY. The third one is rate. So just change this one to rate. Okay. And another one, so we have two more. We have tax and amount. So go down where we have price. This one, where we have that one, let's see, it's supposed to be tax. After rate is tax, so this is supposed to be tax. Okay, and then let's actually look at the one we copied. Let me bring this one closer here. Okay, so this one is not named. One column is not named, so I'm just going to, am I changing in the right place? I'm in a table. Okay, yeah. So we have this, the first table, it is only one row. So we have T head or TH. Okay, this is column, this is column rate, and finally we have tax. So I'm also going to add one. Just copy this and add it here, which is actually the what? The amount. So this one is amount. So after tax we have the amount, and then of course we're having this one here, and you can see here they have added this S only so that it is not seen. Okay, but you could just put it as action, maybe something like that. Let's look at this now. Okay, so now the updated version, you can see here we have this, only the amount is having the data here. We are going to give the data to the amount. So to do that is adding one more for this amount. I'm just going to go to the table rows, and we don't need many. I'm just going to remove all others, leave only one. So these other ones, just remove them to avoid the confusion. Okay, to avoid the confusion and to understand this better, just remove these other ones. Remove all these. Okay, inside the T body. So we only have one. Now if you check, we should have only one. Have one. Yep, that's this one. Okay, so this is great. So what I want to do is to add for the amount so that we now equalize very well. So now let's just go here. We have TH. Okay, you see you have Apple MacBook, and this one, by the way, it is put inside the TR, which TR represents as table row. Okay, this one is table row. Now inside the table row we have TH. Okay, and then inside the TH we have these. Let's see. Oh, okay. So the quantity here in this quantity, of course, we have changed these ones. So just go and put in this first thing, the item description. You can use Apple. The second one, okay, the T data here, just change this one to maybe 2, something like that. And then remember this next one is the rate. Just also put like maybe 10, the rate to be 10. The next one is the tax. We can leave the tax like that. Okay, we can leave the tax to be that. Now we can just now add one, because we added one. Just have this, and this one, let's make it whatever, just make it maybe $3,000. Just make this one, remove that, and also remove this. Okay, just make it like maybe 4,000 or whatever, it doesn't matter. They just want to see the values populating. Okay, so you can see we have all our values: quantity, rate, tax, and amount. And then we have this edit, and now this edit, I'm going to change it to a button. Okay, and we're just going to use a React icon here. So I'm just going to come here, React icons, and that one is going to be used for removing a row, as you can see here. Where is the here? As you hover here, you see there is this X that comes here, and this X's purpose is to remove a row. So if I want to eliminate this one, okay, I can just remove it like that. So that X is for removing, and we also have to put it. So I'm just going here and I say close, something like that. So just get an X here, this one. Okay, so copy this one, and then let's just go to where we have this anch tag. Okay, we just simply put a button. So this one is going to be a button. Okay, I'm just going to name this one as a button, and inside this button, I'm just going to put this component, this icon, just put like that. Okay, so just see, as simple as that. And we could just give this one color. So just give it class name, and this class name would give it some things like text red, maybe 600, and then we could just give it text. It doesn't need to be big, we can just leave it by the default size. Let me just import it. So on top here, just first of all import this from, so just this, from React icons stroke AI. Okay, just like that. Okay, great. And now let's see how it looks like. Okay, just go back here, let's see how it looks like. This one has to change now. Just a second, and yeah, so we have the X here. Maybe we could increase its size, maybe. Okay, let's just do this. So just go ahead and increase this to go down, text, text base. Let's see if this increases it, text base. Okay, slightly increased it, and I think that one is good enough. We don't need to make it bigger than this. So it's for someone, if he clicks it, it should just do something. Okay, and by the way, if it is a button, make sure that, did you see what it did? It simply submitted the form. Okay, so you don't want that, and it's because we're having now two buttons. Okay, we're having this button and then this button. So to avoid this one from submitting, remember this one had type submit, and by default all buttons inside a form, they have type submit if you don't specify the type. So let me repeat that, guys. Let me repeat that. If you have two buttons inside a form, so if you don't specify the type on them, they will all by default have type submit. That means if we click this one, by default is going to act the same job like this create invoice. So to avoid that, we have to change this one into type button. So let me just do that. So gear, give it type, and you say it is type button, and that one's going to solve the problem. Now this time, if we click, let me refresh. Okay, of course we're going to lose all our data. So but this time if I click, nothing has happened. Nothing has happened. It has not submitted the form. That means now it is just a button. That is something to note. Now the form has been integrated fully and is looking nice. The only thing now we need is actually to make these ones as inputs. Okay, we have to make these ones as inputs. Okay, let's just do that. So we already have our input. I'm just going to go to our page, copy one input. Okay, because we already have the styles on them. So just go to the form here, go to the form somewhere here. I'm just going to copy one input. Okay, just copy one input like this, copy one input, Ctrl C, go to the form table, and now we have to start slowly where we have the this one has to be an input. So put the input there. Now we have to remove some of these things. Okay, the one thing we can leave there is the name. Okay, we can leave there the name, and the name of this one is item description. So just update this one, item description, item description, just like that. I'm giving them the names. You can also give the placeholder. Okay, you can just say item description. Okay, or you could just leave it empty, item description. Let's first look at how it looks like. Item description. Okay, and type is text. Okay, that is good. Let's look at what has happened now. Well, let's just go back to our form and see what has happened. Okay, so you can see now we have this. Now that if someone clicks, looks like you can add items. Let's first look at the field of this one. Okay, so yeah, you actually have there, and you realize they made actually them text areas. Okay, so why they made them text areas, I guess, is if someone has a very long, you can actually adjust, or you can add more data to this. You get, so they added this one as the you can add more stuff here, continue moving, adding the item description. I think that's the why they did that, is to do the adding the more data. Now we could just come here and check the text area and see if that one is appropriate anyways. So text area, but I might just move with the other single item, because it also takes in more data. We don't need to make it text areas, but I want to show you that if you want it also, you can just come here and get the text area. Okay, we just come here and also get the text area, and you can see here the text area is also nice. You can just type in, enter, type in, enter. That's the only advantage you have with the text areas. Okay, so you could just copy the text area. Let me just try to see if we add, like, for instance, a text area, what happens. Okay, just add that, Ctrl C. Let's just go to where we added the item description. Here, instead of this input, you could just go ahead and, so let's first do this, comment this out, and let's put this one. Don't worry about all these. Write your description here. Description. Okay, so text area, ID message, and the rows. So you can just come here and make them like 2. Okay, so that it doesn't actually be so huge. So just go back here and we see how it looks now, if it is ugly. So this is the same thing they have. You can see here, this is something like they have here. You get, they have there, you can write your description here, and you could just reduce the padding. They have here this padding of 2.5. Let's make it 2. Okay, So you could just use this, and you see this one, you can add multiple things and it will keep on growing. Okay, so I don't know if we use these ones. So whatever you choose, okay, I'm just going to maintain the other one, but you could just also use this, which is having all this freedom to write these stuff like this. You could just add them as text areas, or you can just add them as inputs. Let's keep it simple. We're just going to add them as inputs. So I'm removing this text area, but I wanted to show you you can add a text area instead of an input. Okay, so we have this input, and the input has stuff type and these things here. Okay, and the name, let's do the same thing to all these ones. Okay, so just get the same this thing here. Okay, just get this one, add it here. And by the way, let's first see if we need anything to change, by the way. So on this quantity here, we are having these problems, but in a second we are going to solve that. So we have this item description. Looks like it has a background of white. Okay, we could just make it maybe BG transparent. I don't know if that one is possible. Let's first see that input. Let's just say put here BG. First put space, and then you say BG transparent. Okay, so that we just see now, so that we can just like not, we only have the border, and then like, yeah, so this is much better. Okay, BG transparent is much better. Okay, so what we need now is to make this one text, and you could just so come here, input here, we can have input number. I see that the input, it is under maybe input. Okay, so you can just look at these inputs, and I don't know if they have the one that actually has the like the number or something. They have the select or these, you know. You just come here and you see on these inputs they have them here. Actually, for the input, like we could just change this one to type. Just come here, instead of having, what is it, down here. So this one we are supposed to have the rate. The second one is supposed to be the quantity. If you just go here in here, this is quantity. So the type is supposed to be not text, but actually to be number. So you say this to number. Okay, and here the placeholder is supposed to be like 2, and this one is supposed to be QTY. Okay, just like that. Let's see if it changes. Okay, so it changes. The problem we have is this width. Okay, so the width is too big. Okay, so to control the width, what do we control? Type number, and then maybe do I give it in display? Let's first see here where they have controlling the inputs, input field, input sizes. This is where they have input sizes. Maybe scroll down. They only talk about the width. Maybe here there is where they have width is full. We can change maybe the width. Okay, so let's just see if we can give them width input here, slate. Let's give them, since we give the height, just give this one width also of 7. Let me just see what happens. if I give it a width. Okay, so it has worked. Maybe this is too small. Let's give a width of maybe 12. Okay, so 12 is fine. Okay, and even this one, instead of giving all this, we could just limit this one also. So let me just say width. So on this first input, let's give it a width of maybe 3/4. It shouldn't finish the whole width. Yeah, it has reduced. Okay, this is great. So just copy this, we put it on all these other ones, and the background should also be transparent. Okay, so here the BG text put text base, so the BG should be transparent. So BG transparent, just like that. So copy this input. Okay, copy this input here. So just get this input, get this, move it to where we have 10, this one, and this one is the what? Is the rate. So you can just put here, type number, then placeholder maybe 5, but the name is the rate. Okay. Okay, so now it looks nice. You see these figures now. You can put in figures here. Then just have the tax. So do the same thing onto the tax here. Okay, so just here put tax. So this tax is going to be tax here, and then type is number, and then width, it should just be like that. The tax also is in a percentage, so you can just say maybe 10. Okay, the tax is also in percentages. Okay, so here is rate. Now rate is of course the price per unit. Either you could just change this, we call it price per unit. Okay, and then just even change this to unit price, just to be very clear. You know that some people who they just interpret, they just go back to rate and just say this one to be unit price, and even on this header here, what is the header? Instead of saying rate, they just say unit price. Okay, so that one is just clear, unit price. Okay, tax, and then finally is amount. Let's put also the one for the amount. Okay, so input for the amount. So simply, I guess we have to paste this. So paste, and then just see here, this is the amount. Okay, type is number. Now for this one, width has to change. Maybe let's say try 24, because like the price amount is much bigger. Okay, yeah, this one should be like maybe 2000. Yeah, should hold some many figures like these ones. Okay, so finally this looks great. We have the stuff. Now we can enter this. Now at the end here, we should have a button saying add new stuff. So you can see here there is this add new line at the end of this stuff. And by the way, at the end they have this border. I don't know if you can add the border button. How do we add the border? You can just go to this table. Just go back to the table. Okay, and we see the table which has maybe a border or something. Okay, there is one which has strips. Okay, there's with table with borders or without borders. There is one which has borders. I think by default, I don't know if a table has a border. So we have table styles. So get started with the border, choose the application. So you can see the ones we have there, I don't know if they have borders by default. Yeah, I think they have borders. When you put a new one, they just go and duplicate and see if we add the second one, what happens. So just note the table header, the table in the T-body. Just get this and copy and paste this here, and let's see if it has already like a border down to separate the rows. Yeah, this is great. Well, it already has already another border, and it has this nice box shadow. Of course, they have said you can go ahead and remove the shadow if you don't want it, like while we are here with on styles. Let's just say table styles. So without border, you can just go and remove them if you don't want the borders. By default, they are there. And then scroll down. If you also don't want scrolling, you can also remove it. I wanted to see. They have a lot. You can just always be using here. They have these things with pagination, with what, table with shadow. Okay, you can see table with shadow. So I think you can also remove the shadow if you don't want the shadow. So you can show here on the table it has shadow on this div where it is located. Okay, let's just go and first remove that shadow and see how it looks like. So down here you see there is a shadow MD, so you can just remove that, and let's go back. So just go back, and here and we see, okay, so we have something like this. So if this is filling right, actually this is right, I don't have any problems with this, so you can just go ahead and remove the shadow, or you could just add the shadow to make this look nice. I think just add this shadow, and maybe we could just add it and make it really small, like SM. Okay, I'm just going to maintain that shadow just for it to look nice, to look somehow elevated. Okay, so now that is a one thing we have to do now is adding a button at the end of this row. As you can see here, we have to add this add line item. Okay, so this is a button, so we have to create a button at the end of this here. Just go inside the table. Let me first minimize the table head, and then inside the T body, just also minimize the second one, just minimize the second table row, and then down here I'm just going to add a button. Okay, I'm going to add a button, so you can, and by the way, this button has nothing to do, even if you put anywhere you want, but just add it here. So I'm just going to say add button, and by the way, just make sure it is type button, so it should be of type button. And I'm just going to add here an icon of plus. So just go here and get a plus icon, just click here plus. Okay, there is this plus icon. I'm just grabbing that, putting it here. So just add this plus, and then down is also add a span which says add, not s, the span which says add line item, add line item. just like that. Okay, so just go up here and let's import this. Okay, so just look at how it looks right now. So at the end of this, at the end of the table, we should just have like the button showing up somewhere. Okay, so the button is here, is showing up there. Let's make sure we give it some margin. So give it a class, and we can just say margin y. Margin y maybe 3. I just say 3. And then we have also give it flex. Okay, items center, and maybe space x, maybe 2. And to this we need to give them text purple. So just give them text purple, maybe 600 or 500, whatever. So just see how they look like. Okay, so this looks great. Already we have this looking nice. Add line item, let's make it bold. So just see text, it is font, so you can say font bold. Okay, font bold. And for this, let's give it a class name. I'm not sure if this font board, it does not work on the icons. Okay, I don't know if we're supposed to give this one as a weight. Normally they come with some props. Let's just see. They have these, or these, let me just see, like with it has no weight. Okay, there is no weight on it. Okay, so there's font weight somehow. Can I just say board? I don't know. Board. Okay. Now yes, go back and see. Okay, so this one is not working, and you can just simply actually leave it like that. But if you have a way, you could just comment in the description, and I know how to add this to make it really having a weight to play around with that. But I think the size is okay. We could also make it text base. Okay, we can make that on text base. Okay, just slightly increase it. It will slightly increase it. But this is looking fine now, and if you click it, nothing should happen. Okay, and even this one. So actually right now everything looks really fine. We have all these things we have done here. The form is looking great. Now we go also on the same thing. How do we get the form data? Okay, and then how do we add a new line, like adding a new line here, and also adding something here, like removing the item. If you click this one, it should just like go. And then another thing is calculating. If someone enters 5 here, like quantity here, and then unit price is 5,000. By the way, we should give the unit price the same space as the amount. Okay, let's go in our form. Okay, I'm just going to remove, by the way, one of these ones. We don't need them. Just concentrate with one so that we understand the concepts. So that is why we have the unit price. This is quantity. So unit price should have also a width of, I think, 24. Okay, it should have that width, because sorry, I made a mistake. Okay, just 24, just like that. So that it is also big enough to hold many figures. Yeah, just like that. It should just be able to hold many figures compared to these other quantities. And the quantity should also be able to hold like 100. Yeah, that is okay. You could actually just increase slightly their width, but let's go with that. Okay, so now the challenge we have right now, one is to first get the data from rendering these ones. Okay, first thing is, if you want to render these ones, the first thing is we don't know how many rows that we have. Okay, we cannot know how many rows, because you see, you can have one row, you can have many rows. If someone keeps on adding lines, we can have many lines. That means basically we have to keep track of the number of columns. Okay, we have to keep track of the number of what? We have to keep track of the number of columns. That is very important. We have to keep track of the number of what? The number of columns. That is really, really important. So that means this one's, the number of columns are going to be in a state. Okay? So that means we can have, I'm just going to create that in a second. So on top here, I'm just going to create a state. So const, okay, const, which is going to be const, and then create a state, which is table data. Now, table data, set table data, table data is equal to use state. So we have to keep track of the table data, which actually literally they are the rows. Okay, and this is going to be an array and an array of objects, because each row, just think about it, a table itself is a set of rows. Is a set of rows. So each row has items, or has these things here. Okay, they are the inputs. Okay, so it's the table itself, is an array of rows. So these ones are rows. I can just say row 1, row 2, row 3, and this keeps on going. We don't know to how many, we don't know how many rows are going to be inside here. You get? So for each row, it has stuff, for each row it has stuff. So you can just come here and let's demonstrate one row, even if we remove these ones. So for each row, it has items. Okay, for instance, it has item description. So the name we used here is the name we're going to suppose to use. So come here, the first one, we used the input type here, item description. So this name, stick to this name. The names we are giving are the names you're supposed to define in the array. So copy this item description, go to this, and then let's say we first put the item description, we set it to be empty. Okay, then we continue getting all the data from it. So just go to the second one. The second one is QTY. Okay, so you have QTY. The third one is unit price. So you can just come here, we write them, comma, unit price, unit price. Okay, and then next is unit, no, the second is QTY. This is QTY. Then the third one was the one that was unit price. Okay, make sure these values are the same. Take your time, make sure this unit price is the one you have entered. The next one is tax, and the last one is amount. Okay, so you have tax and amount. So come here, comma, tax. We have tax, and then we have amount, just like that. So these are this is one row. So if I want another row, I simply add comma, just like this, add this. So I can have as many rows as I want, okay, in the state. Because if we don't keep them in state, then how are we going to manage the addition of many rows? Because someone he can add many rows, and if he's going to add rows, that means we should have a basket containing all the rows. If this person is going to add a new row, we add it to the basket and then we render on the UI. That means we can go ahead and instead render these rows onto the UI. Okay, so instead of manually putting these ones here, okay, instead of manually putting these ones here, we can actually keep track of them. How? So you can just map through them, okay, because that is the basket containing the rows. So down here, I'm just going to put a map. So I'm just going to say table data dot map. So when we map this, we have access to a single row. Okay, so we have access to a single row, and we can also get its index. Okay, and then inside here we can return. So let's just return this. Okay, we return this. Of course, this is the row. We return a row and we give it the data now. So first of all is the key. So we just put the key here equal to I, or index, actually index this one, and now instead of adding these ones manually, the inputs, so for instance the input name, okay, instead of getting the input name manually like this, we are going to get it from the row. So we can just say it is row, okay, dot item description. Okay, so we're just actually just getting them like this. So go to the next one, a quantity. Instead of putting the name manually like this, we are just going to get it from the data. So just say row dot qty. Okay, then no, actually not really that, not this, sorry guys. So we have two things we have to keep track, which is the value, and let me go up here. I don't want this also. Just go back to this. So we have two things we have to keep track of course, is the name and the value. Okay, so here we should have also value. Okay, so the value is the one which is going to be, so we have the name. This name has to remain. Okay, the name is already there. The only thing that you have to keep track is this. So just have add here, which is going to be row dot item description. Okay, so this item description is the one which is storing the value. If you just go back here and you see that if you have the row dot item description is saving this this value. So the value is the one you are getting from that one, not the name. So the names, they are already actually there. Okay, these ones. So the only thing you have to fill in is the value. So add the value for every stuff. So just go here, name, and then just say add value. Okay, so add value, which is going to be name, not name, row dot qty. Okay, so go to the next one, which is unit price. Its value is going to be row dot unit price. Okay, let's go to the next one, which is tax. Its value is going to be row dot tax. Okay, and finally is the amount. So down here on the amount, not amount but value, is row dot amount. Okay, so we have given for each input, we have given it name and a value. Now if you go on the UI, you will see that actually we are going to render 2 items. Okay, let it reload. So you see here we have 2 items, and these items now, they are actually coming from, okay, if you think about it, these ones are coming from our state. So this is good. So we are controlling all the table data, all the table rows from the state. This can be very useful because we can now add more. So if I want to add more, I simply add here. Okay, I simply add this new object. I simply add this object just like that. So if I just reload the page, and you see now we have 3 items. You see, we have 3 items here. So that means this add new line item, the only thing it should do, okay, this one, the only thing it should do should be only actually adding an item. Wherever we click it, we add a new item into this one. Okay, so by the way, even this data of the form, we have it. So let me scroll to the table, add and remove functionality. I have that one here, add and remove functionality. You can see the first thing you do, we created the data. Then we have the function add row, and you're going to see the only thing it's doing is this. So you just look at that. So I'm just going to remove and remain with only maybe 2. Okay, so to this button, we are going to create a function called add row. Okay, so when we create another function, so let me just say add row function. So just say function add row, as simple as that. So this function, what is going to only be doing is simply going to be setting the form data. So set form, how comes I don't have that one? It is set table, not form. Set table data to an array. Okay, which array? So it will first get the previous data. Okay, so first spread the form data, in fact table data in this case. So this is just like saying get the previous rows, or these ones you have here, do not remove them, just simply first add them, and then put comma and then add a new object. And we saw that one, so just simply copy one of these objects and paste it here. Okay, so what it is meaning that when we click on add row function, is going to set the table data. It gets all the data that is available, first adds it there. Okay, and then it adds this new object at the end, and that is exactly what we are doing. We are adding these things, the objects, we are adding them manually here. So right now we want to add them by using a function. So the function is doing that. So I'm just going to go to that function down here. Where is that function? After doing this, we have this button which says add new line. So I say on click. Okay, just say on click. Okay, and it's going to say add row, as simple as that. So just go and see if this works. Go back, let's render this. Okay, so you can render this. Now we have 2 rows, so just see if it can add one more. Just click here. We have some errors. Let's see. Hydration failed because the initial UI does not match what was running on the server. Containing matching table. Expected the server HTML to contain a matching table in a div. Okay, so that is weird. It's, I think, because of adding the function. But if you just look at this function, is actually working. So you see this is working really nice. look at that, guys. It is working properly, is adding the object in the existing ones and is creating all these rows. So the only thing now we need to do is to remove these. If someone wants to remove these ones, okay, if someone wants to remove this, now there is this error. Let me first see this, and let's first remove this this on click. I think the one which is bringing it. Let's first look at that. We see if it is the one that is bringing the problems. We could refresh. Okay, and in our console, it seems like in our console we have some things. Let's see, do we have any errors in the console? We still have the problem even without the on click, so that is not the problem. So let's just come here, and they're saying something. Warning, you provided a value prop to a form field without on change. Okay, so I'm just going to add that one in a second. Here they are saying because of this on change, this will render a read-only field if the field should not be mutable using the default value. Otherwise, set either on change on or read only. So okay, the problem is not on this one, is on change, which we are going to put in a second. So the on change, of course, is the one we use to capture all these values. Okay, let me just put this back. Of course, the on change is what we use to capture these values from the form. So let me put back this on click here, and let's go to that. So up to this point, I guess you have understood how we have added this add line. I have also this one in this cheat sheet. Okay, I have the add row, so you can see we have these ones. I can just go and update that object. So let me just update. I'll be updating some things we have done. Okay, so we had this this one, Control C, just come and add it here. Okay, we could add it there, and you simply could add these ones in one line to avoid this to be so huge. So just add this in one line, just like that. Okay, so we have this one, and I'm setting it. Let me set it to one, only one. Okay, I don't need to set it to be many, only one for the start. And then we have this add row, which is actually simply adding this as like that. So let me just copy also that function for you, so that you have the exact that is updated in the code. Okay, so it is simply adding a row. Okay, here just add like that. Okay, so you have the add row. It simply resets, gets the data that was already there, and then adds the new item. Okay, so we have that one done. Let's now look at actually not handle change, but just actually work on the remove. Okay, so the remove is also very easy. Okay, so the remove, you are going to use one thing called a splice. Okay, you are going to use splice, and let me first teach you about the splice before we move on. Okay, so the splice has the syntax. So when you scroll down, I also put the splice method so that I help you also to understand it. So we have here under down here splice method. So the splice method in JavaScript is used to change the contents of an array by removing or adding new stuff. So basically what it means, okay, basically what it means, I'm just going to go here, the base syntax. Let me just add, remove this one. So if you look at the syntax, it is here. So you have an array, and then you call the splice method, and you have start index, delete count, items 1 and item 2. So if you write an array, for instance, you have an array of numbers. So I just, here we have an example of an array of numbers. like this one. If you call a splice method does two things. One, when you call it on an array, it can add items or it can remove items. Now it returns back this. If you just continue here, reading this side, you will see that it allows you to modify the array, meaning it directly modifies the original array. And the most important thing to understand is this, that it returns. Let me just actually enter this and also enter this and also this, so that you can actually read these things easily. Okay, let's just see this. It modifies by adding, replacing. It can remove, it can replace, it can add elements in a specified index. Now it allows you to modify the array in place, meaning it directly modifies. This is very important also. It directly modifies, let me bold this, the original array and returns the removed element as a new array. So the basic syntax here, if you look at, we just have an array and we call this place. Now you can pass in all these ones. Others are optional. You have the start index, you have the delete count, and these items. Now the start index is the index at which the modification should start. So you can just go ahead and read all these ones. I put them here. But if you look at an example where we have this array of numbers 1 to 5, if you call the splice and you specify like 2 and 1, okay, so the 2 is going to be the start index of the item that should be affected, which is going to be now 3. And the 1, if you pass in 1, will be the items to be removed starting with that index. So that means it is going to remove 3 from this array. And the fact that it actually affects the array itself, so when you console.log array, you will see that 3 has been removed. And if you console.log removed item, you see 3 is the one that has been returned. So you can just go ahead and read this about, at least there are some examples here. Just try reading about it, or you can even Google about it. Okay, so you're going to use it to use the concept on that on the removed item. Okay, so I'm just going to have here the function. We'll have here a function remove row. So function remove row, as simple as that. Now this one should take in index, because as we said, if you're going to remove a row, we should know which row are we removing specifically. We can't just say, like for instance here where we're saying we can add things, you can add a row wherever you want and it will add, and probably is going to add it at the end as we saw here. But for removing a row, we have to first know which row exactly does the client want to remove. So we have this remove row and we take in index, and then inside here, first of all, we can first get const. So we can first make a duplicate. So we could just say updated maybe table data, or you could just say data is equal to, so we spread, so we just get all the table data. So this is actually to create a clone or to create a copy, because as we said, the splice method affects the actual data. So we want first to create this clone or a sort of a copy. This is normally called a shadow copy. And after that, we can now use the updated data dot splice. Okay, so we want something, okay, want to pass into things, want to have the index, okay, which is index, and how many items do you want to remove from that index. So as simple as that. So we want to start from the index of the item. So we are going to get the item by its index, and then we also remove one item. So it's going to remove only that item. So this is the only code we want. And then down here we run set table data and just simply update this to this updated data. Okay, this is the only function we need. It first gets the shadow copy of what is available in the table data, then it removes the item, and then again it re-renders whatever it has gotten. Okay, so now let's add this function. So just copy this function, remove, simply go to so the table, when you just go to here, there is down here, there is this remove. Okay, so on this, we're just going to add on click. So say on click. Okay, on click. So on click, we need just to run this function, but then we pass in the index. Okay, so we are removing, remember each item we have access to the index, and the index is here on top. Let me scroll to show you the index. I'm using this index. For each row we have the index, and this is the index we are using. Okay, now so we can just get the row index and we pass in here. So we are saying when button is clicked, run a function called remove row, and then we pass in index. And you look at the syntax is different from this one. Here we just simply passed in, we are not passing in any parameters, so we simply pass in the name. If it is having parameters, on the other hand, you have to run it as an arrow function, and then you call this function, then you pass in the data. So let's see if it is working. And this very function actually is here. I put this functionality somewhere. Okay, so that you don't get confused. So we have this remove down here. Okay, sorry. It is here, remove row, and you get the index, create a shadow copy, update, do splice, and then save the data, set table data to the updated updated data. So if you now, let's go and see if this works. Just say add a new one, and let's see if you can remove it. Gone, guys, gone and gone. So if you just remove this one, can add, and then like we can remove. So this is cool. Putting that functionality is really cool. I'm so happy that we have reached this far. Okay, so now the next one is getting this table data actually. Okay, so want to get this data. As we said, we did in these other ones, the upper ones, we said we get this data by using the on change or the handle input change. Okay, so we have to add also handle input on this stuff here. Okay, so we have to add handle input, and what do we want from the input? So the input, we want to get the name and the value, of course. Okay, so if you just go to this down here, we have to add on each input, we have to add this on change. And the on change, it must pass in the index and the event. This time we want also the index. Okay, this time we also want the index. So I'm just going to copy this on change. Okay, and I will just go create this function, handle input change. Okay, just go to this on top here, down here, add one function handle input change. Handle input change, it takes in two things. It takes in the index and the event. Okay, so you're going to look at how we are going to use these two inside here, but that's what it takes in. It takes in the index and the event. So when you go back to this table row, so for each input, so here, so for each input, add the on change. Okay, so on change is equal, it of course has access to the event. Now this event is the one we are going to use to access the value and the name. Remember that. So we are passing in also the index. Do the same here. Do the same here. I know the video is getting longer, but please bear with it. It is worth it. Really, it is worth it. Learning something is really worth it. And please, if you're liking the content, please subscribe and like the video so it can be it can move. Okay, you can also share, call your friends, share them the content so that you can learn together. So we have added the on change on every input. Okay, so now wherever we do something, the on change can actually be fired. Okay, so this handle input change can be fired, and the first thing of course we want from this is to get the input and the value. Okay, and if you just look here and just we are going to go step by step. Okay, the first important thing, we have to get this here. Okay, let me just go here and bring in this. So we first get the name from the event. This is exactly what we did in the page. To remind you, that's why I'm copying it, because we actually did the same thing in the event. If you remember here, handle input here. If you remember here, we did the same thing. We have the event and we extracted the name and the value. And then we modified the form data. So I'm going to do the same concept here. So we first get the name and the value from the event.target. Okay, not event, but E in this case. Okay, this E actually here. Okay, so after getting the E, after getting the name and the value, we can first create a shadow copy of the updated data, which we just simply get spread all the values that is in the table data. And then after, we can access, so we are using this index. That's why we carefully have to add the index, because this index is actually helping us to know where this input is located. So this input is located at the index. So we can just go in the updated data at this index, which is this. So it's updated data at index. And then remember, when you say updated data at index, you get actually a row. You are not actually getting the you are not getting the input itself. When you say updated data at index, you are actually getting the row. Then on that row, we can access the name. Okay, so this name is coming here. Let's say at index 1, to explain this. My PC was freezing. Sorry for that. So when we say, for instance, at index 0, so at index 0 we have this item. Okay, and then we say at name, so we can access this specific unit price. That's why we are using this syntax. Okay, we are saying we are first get this updated data by creating a shadow copy, and then on it we are getting updated data at index. This one gives us a row, and then from that we access the name, which we are getting here, maybe unit price, maybe tax, and then we say is equal to the value. Okay, and then this will be help us to update. Now next, of course, would be calculating the amount, because as you remember, this updated data, there is one value that is going to be calculated upon others, because for instance, when we are entering the unit price and quantity, we should be able, for instance, let me just show you here. So when I say here procure, okay, if I type in procure, do we have any problem? Let me try to refresh. Okay, let me type in here procure. Oh, I think it's because we haven't completed to contain expected server HTML to contain a matching table in a div. Seems I have an error somewhere. So let me first go to this one. At the end, before we work on this price, after you have made this updated data, you can set the data to the updated data. Let me see if that is the problem. So say set table data to the updated here, just like this. I don't know if there is any problem. On change is equal handle input change. Okay, it seems to be having some problem. Let's check. Let's look at our console if we have any errors. From the console, there seems like not to be errors, only that we're having some. Let me just first get this here and read these errors here. So there is something saying here, unexpected server HTML to contain a matching table in a div. Are we having at form table is not having the end div? Let's first confirm. Everything looks to be okay. I don't know where that problem comes from. They just have the here table data. So all these are our inputs. Okay, all these ones are our inputs, and the row is closing very well here, and then we have t-body, and then finally we have the whole table. So I don't know where that problem comes from. Let me try to refresh. Three errors. Expected server HTML to contain a matching table in a div. At table, at div, they are not giving us specific lines. Okay, just first continue. First of all, let's just try to get now what we are testing. Okay, so at this point I want to console.log also the form data. So just come here and let's console.log let's see console.log updated data, as simple as that. Okay, so I'm just going to type in some things here. Item 1. Okay, quantity I'm just going to say 2. Here I'm just going to put 5, and then here 10. Here amount is just a 2000. okay, maybe 200, because unit price, so this one should be 10. Okay, like here should be 10. If you get quantity and multiply by this one, I just make it 500. So that here is 1000. Okay, so you can just do the same down here. I'm just going to actually remove this one, so I have only one. So now, right now, we should be, so we need a way of submitting the data, but you can see here that we have the form data being set amount to 1000. Okay, we have the unit price 500. So we have all these data coming. Okay, we have this second item, of course I removed it. Okay, so we have all these things being done. So what we want is one thing. Okay, item 1, quantity 10, tax that. So you have all this data here. So the first thing we want to do is, if I enter something here 500, here 2, quantity, want to multiply them. Okay, of course you could also go ahead and subtract whatever is in the tax. If this product is charged 10%, of course you have to get the 10% and we add these ones. For now, let's first leave the tax calculation, but they just have this. If someone has 2 and 500, it should give us 1000. Okay, so that to explain this block, let me just use this this here. I'm just going to zoom in so that you look at this really very well. So we have already explained this part up to this point. Okay, so here what we want to say, if the name, remember we have the name is the name of the input and the value is the value of the input. So the first thing is first check if the name is equal QTY, and this is for the country, and of course this one should be unit price. So if this one is unit price, okay, so if the name is quantity or if the name is unit price, we should first get the quantity and the unit price, and we are getting them from this object, this array we did here. So you just say it is quantity at the index dot qty. This one will give us the value of quantity. Now if you check here, these things were all in, amount is in as a what, as a string, quantity is a string, tax is a string, everything is a string. That means just going in back to where is it here, let me drag it here. So we have to get this updated. We have to pass float. This is a function that converts into a number, in fact into a float. So we convert for the price and the quantity, and then we also go ahead and do a check if the quantity is not, so this is none is not a number. So we have to first check if these are numbers. This one is to check that, make sure that the price and the quantity are numbers, and if that is true, then we update the total, and this one is going to be the amount. We named it as amount. Okay, so we update the amount with quantity times price, and we round off to 2 decimal places. Else we leave it empty. If this, we find that this price and these ones are not numbers, then we can just leave it as empty. Okay, so this one is also amount, not total. Okay, so yes, now can just copy this if statement, this one only, and let's bring it here. Okay, so let me hope there is nothing I've broken. Okay, there's one line here that looks actually to be broken. I don't know if it is the one which is bringing the problems. And was this there? Let me first remove this. Okay, so this function is closing here. let me just bring in only the if statement. So if closes to this one. Okay, so we have the two if statements inside there. Okay, so we are saying if, so we first get here if name is QTY, or if name is equal to price, then we get the quantity. And remember, this pass float, its purpose is to get the quantity. Okay, it is to get the quantity, and then here this one to price. After getting the quantity and price, we check if they are numbers. If they are, then we update the amount. Remember, this amount is also on this object you see here. Okay, we update that to that, and then else, then we can just leave it empty. So let's see this one, if this one works actually. So just go this side and let's refresh. Okay, so as I'm typing, I'm just going to type in here item 1. Okay, item 1, quantity is 2, and the price is 500. Okay, so if I just go tax, okay, if I go to tax to be 10, now what we expect actually in here, let's see. So amount hasn't been updated. We still have these weird errors. I think we'll show these errors here, but we are not actually getting these here. I think it's because of okay, if name is equal to QTY, so this name we have them to be equal to QTY, and let's see, QTY, and instead of these triple brackets, let me just use these double ones, you never know. So, or if name is unit price, so we just get this. We are saying updated data, which we have here. So we get the price, the QTY, and the price, and then so here is not price per item, but actually is unit price. Okay, and then if they are not numbers, then if they are numbers, then we can just do this. We get the index at the amount, we update. So just check now. Okay, let's just check. Okay, I'm just going to see. So you can see now it is 100. If I put 1000, it is 1000.00. So that is working. If I change this 3, you see it is 1500. Let's just do the second one, item 2. Okay, and then no, not item 2. Item 2 is here, and you see it didn't change because this is not a number. Now you can change this to 3, and of course this one also maybe to 200, and you can see it is 600. So now we have the fully functional stuff. Okay, we have the table is doing this functioning very well. Okay, so one big thing now we have to do and end this episode, and I have to first make sure I do that before we go and end this episode, is to combine now this data that we have in this, and we combine it this side. If you just right now go and submit data, this data, if you create invoice, we cannot access it here. Okay, we cannot access it there. So what we want is, if I click on submit, it should first get this data from the form and send this data up here. Okay, bring it and join it with this one. Okay, so the first thing we have now to understand is how do we move the data from the child component to the parent component. So the parent component, of course, at this point is this create invoice component, this big one, and then the child one is this table. So this table from table, we have to get data from this from table, and it propagates, or we move it to this stuff. And we can do that by using a function. Okay, so we can first start by creating on top here. Now I'm just going to go to the page. So by the way, be careful at this point. If you are feeling tired, you can first take a pause, take some coffee or take some tea, and then come back. Now at this point here, I'm just going to minimize these functions we have here. I'm going to create one more function, and I'm creating it in the page. Okay, so function update table data, update table data. So what is the purpose of this function? So the purpose of this function, okay, is first of all is to have, so let me just go and have a state. So just say here we have form data, and we are also going to have table data. Okay, because at some point at the beginning we have form data. So what I want to do is say const, okay, table data set table data, okay, is equal to an empty array. So in this here we can have a state of table data. Okay, we have this state of table data that is in the whole form. Okay, so we don't know this. Now the only way we can do that is actually propagating this. Okay, is using this function update table data, which is going to be saying I will receive new table data. So table data, so it receives new table data, and it sets, so it sets set table data to this new table data. So this is the only thing to do. This update table data function, what it is saying, that at first in this this component of form, we don't have the table data because the table data is in some other component. So is being updated from somewhere else. It is noted here. It's like when you have a manufacturing company manufacturing things, maybe a car, and the tires are being manufactured from some other country. So we have to have an ambassador who is going to link us to where they are manufacturing from. So this function is going to be the ambassador. Okay, is this the function you are going to send into the form component to be for us to be seeing when they finish manufacturing the table data, it gives us back that table data into this component. Okay, let me explain it once again. When we are actually having here this table data, we are not having access to the direct table data. As you can see, it is in the form table. So we have to create an ambassador who is going to actually wait for this data to be created in the form data, gets him and brings this, and then sets it into this variable. So what we do, we create a function table data, which actually waits for the new table data from wherever it's going to be, which is going to be from the form table, and then it sets this table data to this new form data. So what we are going to do, we'll simply pass this function. Okay, so we simply pass this function to the form. Okay, so where we have the form data, so just come here. What is this function? It is here, form table. So pass in this function, and the function is called update table data is equal to update table data. So you can just use the same name. So when you go to this now, so when you go to form data, you can destructure this function and get it out. So we have now the action, the function in this component, and at this point where we update the data, so where we have this handle input change, we need to grab that data at this point when they make it ready. So down here, simply say update table data, passing updated data. So it is only just waiting for that data and grab it and then pass it to the other side. So update table data. This is now the new data we are talking about in this page. So now it's getting it here and is taking it to the parent component, and then when it reaches this in this component, and it says it here. Okay, so what we are going to do is consoling. Okay, so what we want is to console.log the table data. Okay, so that we see, do we have this table data ready after we have exported this. So now let me go to this form. I'm going to remove some console.logs like this one, console.log this. Is there any other? I don't have, I think, anymore. So, and in the first time, I'm just going to only have one item. Okay, I just have only one item for simplicity of the form. So let me just let me just do this. Okay, so let's just go here. We have one line. Okay, we have one line, and we still have these errors. Maybe I will fix them in the next video. So now I'm just going to fill in some data. Item 1. Okay, quantity is going to be 10. Okay, and then I have unit price is going to be $100, which calculates to $1,000, and then this one to be 10 or so, and then also create invoice. Okay, so we are having an undefined. Okay, we have of course our data, and then we have page undefined on 45. On 45, is it the one on this? This one here. First of all, let's make sure on the form. Let's just go down here. After we have updated everything, we have the set update. Okay, we have this update. Means like the exchange is not happening. Okay, let me just first check. I did this in our reference. I also have this, by the way, in the reference. So scroll down. Okay, where we have the parent component. So in the parent component, went ahead and defined this. So first thing, we had the table data. A second. So we defined const table data. Use state. By the way, it has to be by default an empty array. Let me just also first make that. I don't think it is the problem, but yes. Where is the page and where is the table data? Is use state, guys. Sorry for that. Supposed to be use state. Okay, and then this one we pass in as an empty array. That shows I'm tired. I've been coding for now how many hours? 4 hours or something, or 3 hours. So we have this table data, set table data to use state. So this, and let's check if now it works. Let's first check if now it works. Go back to, just scroll up here. And now you can see at first they are consoling it as an empty array, which is good. So just go here, fill in. Okay, item 1, quantity, and you can see it is actually being updated direct, you know. So just see here 10, and here unit price is going to be 100, and here maybe 1%. So before even actually clicking this, you can see them, you are seeing them at page 45. We are actually having the table data. So let me just add another one, item 2. Okay, so look at that, guys. So we have now 30, we add here 100, here we put 2 or 3. We have this data now available in state. Look at that. So we have item 1, item 2, and all the details, we have them here. Okay, so this is really, really great. We have this function, and now that means we can actually have them on the preview page. Okay, we can have them on the preview page, and we can just go grab it on the preview page. For instance, now we can, by the way, first combine this data. Let me show you. We can combine now using the spread, which is very easy. Okay, so for instance, we have the table data and the form. We have this form data, and then we have also our table data. So we can just come here and we modify. Okay, we can just modify here combined data. In this here, we can have combined data. Okay, so I'm just going to go down here. Instead, okay, instead, where is the form? So we are on the page where we have the handle submit. So in the handle submit, we are having the form data alone. So we can actually create a new variable called combine data. Okay, which is combining the data from it is combining data from the form and the one from the table. Okay, so you can just combine these ones, because they are all, I think, arrays. Is something about to give us an array? Let's first see. Form data is what? Let's first look at the form data, the initial state. So you have the form data, which is an object. Okay, and then you have the table data, which is so the form data is an object. Then we have the table data, which we have to actually spread. Okay, we have to spread them. Let's just first see the combined data, what we get here. I'm just going to come here and console.log the combined data here. Okay, just console.log here, console.log the combined data. Okay, so this is going to rebuild, and we have the, let's just fill some data here, Nairobi, this is sub, and some stuff here, here's some stuff. Now we have also these ones. Let's just submit. Okay, so we have the combined, no thanks. On this we have, let's see, let's see. Okay, so now we have even the table data as a key. Okay, so we have a table data as a key. Here you can now see, you can access everything now from this table data that I'll put it as an array. So you could spread it. Okay, we could spread it, but this is good just having it as an array, keeping it as an array, so that you can actually like go through it and do the sum and all that kind of stuff. So we have all our data within here. Okay, so thank you so much for watching this episode. It has been a really long one, but thank you if you have stayed up to this point. We have made our invoice so much robust. First of all, we have all the data, including the one in the tables. Okay, thank you much for working on this. This is really nice. The invoice is working so well right now. The what is remaining is now putting the image upload. Okay, we upload the image, get the preview, and then we now have all the data. So we combine it very well. When we say create invoice, we just go to the preview here and we put all this data on the preview. We design it very well. So we have to design the invoice again, which is going toward the preview now, so that when we click on the print or we click on download, it can actually download the actual invoice, the PDF. Thank you so much. If you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please go to the channel and subscribe, okay, so that we can continue making more content. See you in the next episode.